The morning sunlight came in harsh, slicing through the blinds in long, thin stripes that lit the living room floor like prison bars. I stood frozen in the middle of the room, the faint scent of stale coffee mingling with the lingering ghost of her perfume. My fingers trembled, clutching my phone with a grip so tight that my knuckles turned white. Her message stared at me on the screen, just closure. I'm still yours. I dropped the phone onto the couch, watching it land with a soft thud that seemed to echo in the apartment's empty space. My chest tightened, a strange mixture of heartbreak and fury twisting my insides into knots. I felt lightheaded, almost dizzy, as if the ground beneath me were ready to vanish, leaving me suspended in a moment of time I could neither escape nor control. This wasn't just a text. This was a weapon, a key unlocking doors I thought I'd already sealed. I remembered the nights I had lain awake, imagining our future, replaying moments that now felt like illusions. The first time I kissed her under the dim street lamp outside the bakery, the way she laughed when I accidentally spilled coffee on her dress, the nights we spent tangled in conversation, sharing secrets neither of us dared speak aloud elsewhere. Every memory burned like fire, consuming the rationality I tried to cling to. The wedding invitation had arrived the day before, and I had held it as one holds a fragile glass, careful, reverent, yet trembling with fear. The date was circled in elegant ink, the venue a lavish cathedral she had chosen months ago. And the thought of her walking down the aisle, promising herself to someone else, made bile rise in my throat. I stumbled to the window, pressing my forehead against the cool glass as the city below moved on, oblivious to the storm raging inside me. Cars honked, bicycles rattled, footsteps echoed on the pavement, life continuing outside while my world had been upended in one simple, tortuous sentence. I thought of him, the man she had chosen. My mind conjured an image. Tall, confident, smiling in that casual, effortless way that made people trust him instantly. My stomach twisted at the thought. What did he have that I didn't? What invisible quality had drawn her to him while she had once whispered my name in her sleep, promised me everything? A knot of jealousy and regret formed in my chest, but there was something darker beneath it, a sharp awareness that this wasn't just about him. It was about her, about choices, about the fragile thread of trust that had been stretched too thin. I sank onto the couch, head in my hands. My apartment felt unbearably quiet, the air heavy with the weight of memories. I could almost hear the echo of her laughter, the brush of her hair against my skin. My chest heaved as I tried to inhale, to calm myself, but each breath was shallow, uncertain, carrying a cocktail of panic, anger, and longing. Then, as if on instinct, I grabbed my coat, slamming the door behind me with more force than necessary. The city greeted me like an indifferent witness, sunlight harsh against my eyes, pedestrians oblivious to the storm inside me. My heart pounded with an urgency I couldn't name, a frantic need to see her, to confront this chaos before it became irreversible. I reached her apartment building in record time, hands clammy, heart hammering against my ribs. The familiar scent of jasmine from her balcony drifted toward me, and I paused, letting it wash over me like a memory I couldn't escape. The bell rang, its chime cutting through the morning haze. The door opened, and there she stood, her eyes wide, lips slightly parted, that mixture of guilt, hope, and fear swimming in her gaze. I could barely form words. Why? I finally whispered, voice cracking. Why him? Why now? She flinched, stepping back as if the question had physically struck her. I needed closure, she stammered, trembling. I thought this was the way to move on. I laughed bitterly, a sound that felt foreign in my own ears. Move on, with him, after everything we've been through. My voice rose slightly, thick with disbelief. Do you even understand what you're doing? Her hands shook as she reached for mine, but I recoiled. I'm scared, she whispered, tears brimming in her eyes. I thought I could move forward, but now. I stepped toward her, gripping the edge of the doorframe, fighting the urge to crumble entirely. I don't care about him. I don't care about the wedding or closure. I care about us. I care about what we had, and what we still could have. I can't. I won't let this farce take it from us. Her lips quivered, tears falling freely now, and in that instant, I realized something profound. The fight wasn't against him. The fight was for her, for the truth between us, for the love that had been buried beneath misunderstandings and time. We stood there, suspended in a moment thick with tension, unspoken words, and raw emotion. Outside, the city moved on, indifferent, but inside, a battle raged that would determine everything. The chasm between us, wide and perilous, beckoned, and we had to choose whether to cross it together or let it swallow us both. And in that heartbeat, I knew, I could no longer wait. Whatever happened next would change us forever. The door closed behind her, and for a moment, the room felt smaller, tighter, as if the walls themselves were pressing in, listening to the tension between us. She stood there, her shoulders trembling, eyes wide and glistening, like someone caught in a storm that they couldn't escape. I could see the conflict in her gaze, guilt, fear, longing, and an aching uncertainty all tangled together. I wanted to reach for her, to pull her into my arms, but my body froze. Instead, my voice broke the silence, low and trembling. Why? Why now? Why him? Her lips parted, but no words came. She swallowed hard, blinking as if trying to summon courage from thin air. Finally, her voice, quiet and uneven, seeped out. I thought I needed closure. I thought, maybe this would help me move on, help me understand if I could, let go. I felt a shiver run down my spine. Every word was like glass pressed against my chest. Move on, I repeated, voice hoarse. With him, after everything we've shared, the promises, the nights, the plans we made. My words came faster now, almost desperate, spilling out in a torrent. Do you even realize what you're doing? Tears welled in her eyes, but she didn't look away. She reached for my hand, hesitant, almost afraid I would reject her touch. I stepped back, my fingers twitching, refusing the contact, unable to trust the vulnerability. I'm scared, she admitted, voice breaking. I thought I could move forward, that I could be okay, but now, seeing you, I realize I can't. I've never been able to. Her words cut deeper than I expected. I wanted to collapse to the floor, to scream, to cry, to laugh, all at once. I had spent so long trying to convince myself that I could live without her, that I could survive if she chose another path. But here she was, confessing what I already felt, what I had buried deep in my chest for years. I don't care about him, I said finally, voice low but firm, a tremor running through it. I don't care about the wedding. I don't care about closure. I care about us, about what we had, about what we still could have. I won't let this farce take that from us. Her hand dropped to her side. Her lips quivered. Tears fell freely down her cheeks, and I realized she wasn't just scared. She was overwhelmed, fragile, exposed in a way only I had ever seen. I don't want to hurt you, she whispered, voice raw. I never wanted to. I thought if I could move on, I wouldn't feel this way. But I do. I feel everything, still. The room seemed to shrink, our breaths loud and uneven in the air between us. I stepped closer, slowly, cautiously, letting her see my eyes, my heart, my truth. Then don't marry him. Don't pretend closure will fix something that doesn't need fixing. I'm not asking you to choose me, not in a dramatic, fairy tale way. I'm asking you to stop betraying what we had. That's all. Stop pretending we can't still be us. Her head fell into her hands, and the sobs came unrestrained. I sat down beside her, letting her lean against me, letting her cry into my shoulder. I didn't move, didn't speak, because sometimes the quiet itself speaks louder than words. We stayed like that for what felt like hours, the world outside continuing obliviously, cars, birds, strangers passing by, but inside, time had paused. We talked in fragments after that, sentences half-formed, confessions spilling between breaths. We remembered moments we had tried to forget. The night we got caught in the rain laughing, the time we fought over something stupid and ended up lying awake whispering apologies, the nights we had planned a future we weren't sure we'd ever reach. Each memory was a thread weaving us back together, fragile but persistent. Hours passed. The sunlight outside shifted, dipping toward the horizon, casting shadows across the apartment floor. I watched her, tears streaked on her cheeks, hair messy, eyes red yet bright, and I realized something terrifying and wonderful at once. The possibility of us still existed. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't easy, and it was fraught with risk, but it was there. Waiting. And in that quiet, fragile space, I knew I couldn't wait any longer. Whatever happened next, whatever choices we made, whatever consequences followed, we were already beyond a point of no return. The decision loomed like a storm cloud over us, heavy and dark, but with the faintest hint of light at the edge. And for the first time in what felt like an eternity, I dared to hope that we could walk through it together. The city outside her apartment continued its indifferent rhythm, buses rattling over potholes, footsteps echoing on wet pavement, the low hum of distant traffic, but inside, time seemed suspended. We sat on the floor of her living room, the wedding invitation lying between us like a fragile, accusing witness. I could feel its glossy surface pressing subtly into my leg, as if the card itself had weight, a physical reminder of everything that might have been lost. Her head rested lightly against my shoulder, tentative, as if she feared the solidity of my presence might vanish. I didn't speak. I didn't need to. The silence itself carried the words we both feared: regret, longing, love, mistakes, and the unspoken question of whether forgiveness could bridge the chasm that had opened between us. "I can't believe that you'd do this," she whispered finally, her voice trembling, barely above the hum of the city. Her hand sought mine, fingers curling hesitantly around mine, seeking reassurance. "You just walked in and stopped everything. Just like that, without warning, without permission." I let out a humorless laugh, the sound echoing hollowly in the apartment. "I didn't need permission," I said, voice low but steady. "I needed to see you. To make sure you weren't losing yourself in something that wasn't real. Something that wasn't us." She lifted her head slightly, eyes searching mine, raw vulnerability reflected back at me. "But what about him? The plans, the people expecting?" Her voice broke mid-sentence, the weight of all that she had tried to control pressing down on her. "Was I wrong to even think this would work?" "You weren't wrong to feel confused," I said gently, stroking her hair back. "You were human. You wanted answers. You wanted closure. I get it. But the truth is, closure isn't a ceremony. Closure isn't a date circled on a card or a man's name etched on a piece of paper. Closure is understanding your heart. Understanding who you love. Understanding yourself. And you." I paused, letting my words sink in. "You haven't stopped loving me. You can't." Her breath caught, and for a moment she seemed ready to argue, to resist, to protect herself. But then her body slumped slightly, acknowledging a truth we had both been dancing around for months, maybe years. I could feel her heartbeat, rapid, erratic, almost matching mine, and I realized how long it had been since our lives had synced like this. I thought moving on meant letting you go," she murmured, her voice barely audible. "I thought if I could feel something, someone else, it would make the pain easier. But it didn't. It only made it worse." "I know," I said simply, closing my eyes briefly. "I know because I've felt it too. Every day, watching you drift, pretending that someone else could replace what we had, it was unbearable. And now, seeing you here, telling me this honesty, it's terrifying. And yet, it's all I needed." We sat together for hours, exchanging fragmented sentences, half-finished thoughts, and confessions that had been locked away like treasures in a chest we'd been too afraid to open. We remembered nights we had laughed until our sides ached, arguments that escalated only to dissolve in whispered apologies, moments of raw intimacy we never spoke of. Each recollection was a thread weaving us back together, delicate yet persistent, like a tapestry of all the us we had been before the world threatened to tear it apart. Outside, the sky darkened to an almost surreal violet, the streetlights flickering on, casting long shadows through the blinds. The city was alive, but we were in a different world entirely, a place where only our shared history, our memories, our love existed. I could feel the storm of guilt and confusion she carried, and yet underneath it all, a quiet resilience. She hadn't abandoned us completely. She had only lost her way temporarily. "I'm scared," she admitted finally, burying her face into my chest. "Scared that, even now, it's too late. That maybe we've already lost too much." I held her tighter, heart hammering, voice steady but fierce. "No, we haven't lost anything. The only thing we've lost is fear. And now, we have a chance. A real one. But we have to be honest. Completely, without holding back." "Can you do that?" She nodded, muffled against my shoulder, tears soaking into my shirt. I could feel her shaking, the tremor of a heart that had carried too much for too long. I whispered, almost to myself, I can't promise it'll be easy. I can't promise the world won't try to tear us apart again. But I can promise, I'll fight for you. For us. No matter what. Her fingers tightened around mine, and in that grasp, I felt the pulse of something unbreakable, something raw, something infinitely ours. The wedding invitation on the floor seemed to fade into insignificance, a relic of a path we never truly wanted to take. Our future wasn't written in ink or dictated by ceremonies, it was alive in our hands, our breaths, our shared heartbeat. By the time night fully settled, the apartment was bathed in soft shadows. The city's lights glimmered through the window, but inside, the glow was something else entirely, the fragile, delicate, terrifying brilliance of two people choosing each other against everything else. And in that fragile glow, I realized something essential: love wasn't about waiting for the perfect moment. Love wasn't about etiquette or promises to others. Love was chaos. Love was fear. Love was showing up, speaking truth, letting yourself be seen, and somehow, miraculously, choosing to stay, again and again. We didn't sleep that night. We talked, we cried, we argued gently, we laughed softly, and in those hours, we built something neither of us could have imagined, a fragile, luminous bridge back to each other. Outside, the city hummed indifferently, but inside, we were already reclaiming what had almost been lost forever. The morning sun broke over the horizon like a silent alarm, casting gold across the cathedral steps where people had already begun to gather. I stood at the edge of the garden path, watching guests in their elegant attire, their chatter a dull roar against the pounding of my own heartbeat. The air smelled of fresh roses and polished stone, and for a moment, it felt unreal, like I had stumbled into someone else's life, a scene scripted for strangers, not for the chaos we were about to unleash. Her dress, I could see it in my mind even before she appeared. Ivory silk, delicate lace trailing behind her, the soft shimmer of sequins catching the light. She was perfection, poised, flawless. And yet, I could almost see the tension beneath it, the tremor in her hands, the hesitation in her steps that betrayed the storm inside her. The organ began to play, a soft melody that grew louder, echoing through the cathedral. Guests rose, the moment had arrived. And then she appeared. My chest constricted. Time seemed to stretch, every second elongated until her first step down the aisle felt like an eternity. Her eyes scanned the crowd, searching, and finally, they locked with mine. I could see it then, the struggle in her gaze. A war between duty, fear, and desire. Her lips parted slightly, and I felt my knees go weak. I wanted to run to her, to stop this ceremony before it even began, but the space between us felt like miles. She reached the altar with him, the man she was meant to marry. The officiant's voice echoed, a blur of rehearsed words, but I could barely hear it. My focus was on her, every subtle twitch, every hesitation, every fleeting glance. My pulse drummed so loudly I was certain she could hear it. Then, just as the officiant asked, "Do you take this man?" she froze, and in that frozen second, I saw her decision crystallize. Her eyes darted to mine, and she shook her head slightly. Not the head of resignation, but the faintest, almost imperceptible shake that said, "I can't." I didn't think. I didn't plan. I surged forward, heart in my throat, adrenaline sharpening every sense. Guests gasped, whispers rippling through the crowd. I stepped onto the aisle, bypassing the stunned attendants and his bewildered groomsmen. I didn't slow. I didn't stop. I reached her side just as the minister began the vows. "Wait." My voice tore through the murmurs, strong and raw. Silence descended like a heavy curtain. Her hand trembled in mine. He froze, disbelief written across his face. "This isn't real. None of this," I said, gesturing at the altar, the dress, the audience. "You don't have to do this. None of you can make this right for us. Only you, only us, and I." Her breath caught. Tears glimmered on her cheeks. Guests whispered again, some shocked, some scandalized. "I don't need a wedding to prove anything," she said softly, almost afraid to speak. I was wrong. I thought I could, but I can't marry him. I can't." The officiant blinked. The man beside her stiffened, jaw tight, trying to process a reality he hadn't anticipated. And I, standing there, chest heaving, palms shaking, realized that every moment of fear, every sleepless night, every heartbeat spent imagining this day had led me here. To this, the raw, unfiltered truth of what mattered. She turned fully to face me now, hands still trembling, eyes shining. "I'm still yours," she whispered, and it wasn't a plea. It wasn't desperation. It was clarity, a promise, a surrender to the truth neither of us could deny. I exhaled, relief and exhilaration surging through me. I brushed a strand of hair from her face, cupping her cheek. "Then nothing else matters," I said. "Not the invitations, not the dates, not anyone else. Just this. Just us." The crowd remained frozen, a tableau of shock and awe. But I didn't see them. I didn't hear them. I only saw her. And in that moment, the world contracted to two people, a single heartbeat, a choice to reclaim something almost lost forever. She leaned into me, and for the first time in years, the tension between us dissolved into something lighter, freer. The dress, the flowers, the ceremony, they were all symbols, but they weren't us. We were here, alive, breathing, choosing each other in real time. Outside, the sun climbed higher, warming the marble steps, glinting off the petals scattered by confused yet enchanted guests. But inside the cathedral, the universe had narrowed to us alone, two souls that had weathered storms, missteps, and misunderstandings, and emerged willing to fight for the fragile, irreplaceable love that bound them. And for a moment, nothing else existed, just the two of us, standing together, hearts aligned, and the promise that we would never let go again. The cathedral emptied slowly, the echoes of whispered conversations and shuffling feet fading into the stone walls, leaving only the quiet hum of aftershocks from the morning's chaos. Guests departed in clusters, some wide-eyed and speechless, others shaking their heads in disbelief, but we were no longer in their world. We were left in a bubble of silence, the air thick with tension and the scent of crushed petals and spilled perfume. She leaned against me as we walked through the courtyard, her hand buried in mine, fingers interlocked like a lifeline. I could feel her heartbeat, fast and uneven, and I knew it mirrored my own. Every step we took was tentative, cautious, as if we were navigating a terrain we hadn't walked before. The world had shifted beneath our feet, and for a moment, I wasn't sure if we would stumble, or if we would rise together. "I can't believe I almost went through with it," she murmured, voice trembling. I thought it was the only way to move on. But, her voice broke, and she exhaled sharply. "I can't move on from you. I don't want to. I never have." I pulled her closer, resting my forehead against hers, feeling the warmth of her breath, the rapid cadence of her pulse. "I knew," I whispered, voice low, hoarse. "I always knew. Even when you tried to hide it, even when the world made you doubt us, I felt it. And now it's real. You're here, with me." Her eyes glistened, wide with vulnerability and relief. She laughed softly, a trembling, beautiful sound that carried the weight of months, no, years, of suppressed emotion. "It's terrifying," she admitted. "Everything we've been through, everything we could have lost. I'm scared I'll ruin this, that I'll make the wrong choice again." "You won't," I said firmly, brushing a loose strand of hair from her face. "We're not perfect, and we'll never be. But we're honest. That's what matters. That's how we'll get through this. Together." We walked in silence for a while, the city's chaos around us a muted backdrop to our own fragile equilibrium. Shops opened, street vendors shouted their greetings, and children ran past, their laughter ringing like a distant melody. But none of it touched us. Our world had narrowed to a single thread, each other. When we reached her apartment, we paused at the doorway. She hesitated, gripping the handle, as if the space beyond the door might swallow her courage whole. I stepped forward, gently pressing my hand against hers. "Whatever happens next," I said, "we face it together. No secrets, no half-truths. Just us." Her lips quivered, a smile tugging at the corners. "I'm ready," she whispered. "I've never been more ready for anything in my life." Inside, the apartment was quiet, but the silence was comforting now, not oppressive. She sat on the couch, burying her face in her hands briefly before looking up at me with eyes that shone with both fear and resolve. "My family," she began, voice barely above a whisper. "They're going to be furious. They've planned everything. My friends, the invitations." I crouched in front of her, taking her hands in mine. "We'll handle it. We'll face them together. Right now, it's about us. The rest, We'll deal with the consequences. Together. Tears rolled down her cheeks, but she laughed softly, a sound that was both incredulous and relieved. I don't know how I ever thought I could do this without you, she admitted. It was like trying to breathe underwater. I felt the same, I said. Every day I imagined this, seeing you, talking to you, fighting for you. And now it's real. And it's terrifying. And it's everything I've ever wanted. We sat there, holding each other, the city outside oblivious to the storm that had passed, the world continuing as if nothing had changed. But we knew, everything had changed. Nothing could ever be the same again. Not the past, not the expectations, not the lives we had imagined. And yet, in that transformation, there was hope. Fragile, luminous, terrifying hope. Hours passed. We talked. We cried. We laughed. We reconstructed our future in whispers and fragments, imagining what could be, what should be, what would be if we stayed honest, if we stayed brave, if we stayed together. Each plan, each word, each promise felt sacred, delicate, as though the mere act of speaking it aloud made it more real, more attainable. Night fell, draping the apartment in shadows that flickered with the soft glow of streetlights. The city had quieted, but we were wide awake, our hearts still thrumming with adrenaline, relief, and the raw intensity of emotion. We hadn't just survived a day of chaos, we had reclaimed something far more precious, the choice to be with each other, fully and unapologetically. And in that quiet, intimate space, I realized something profound. Love isn't about timing, perfection, or avoiding mistakes. Love is about courage, about stepping forward when the world says you shouldn't, about holding on to someone else even when it terrifies you. And for the first time in years, I felt the solid, unshakable certainty that we had found our way back, not to a past we had lost, but to a future we were about to build together. The morning after the wedding chaos, the apartment felt heavy, the air thick with the weight of unspoken realities. The sun filtered in through half-closed blinds, casting long stripes across the floor, but the warmth it offered couldn't reach the chill lingering in my chest. We had survived the storm outside, but now the storm inside awaited us, questions, doubts, guilt, and the unrelenting pull of the world we had temporarily shut out. She moved quietly, making coffee, her movements precise yet hesitant. Every clink of the cup against the counter sounded impossibly loud, a reminder that the world was still moving even if we weren't ready. I watched her, feeling a mix of admiration and anxiety, aware that the strength it took to defy expectations and walk away from the altar might collapse under the weight of the reactions waiting outside these walls. "They'll be furious," she murmured without looking at me, voice low, trembling slightly. "My family, my friends, they planned everything. They'll call, they'll question, they'll blame you." I leaned against the doorway, arms crossed, heart hammering. "Let them call, let them judge. We did the right thing. You did the right thing. Nobody else gets to decide what's right for your heart." She finally looked at me, her eyes soft but weary. "It's not that simple. They won't understand. They'll see it as a scandal, a mistake. And I don't want to hurt anyone, especially you." "You've already hurt me," I said softly, stepping closer, taking her hands in mine. "Not intentionally, but you did. When you tried to move on without me, when you almost went through with it, it broke something in me. But right now, seeing you here, owning your choice, I feel whole again. Because this isn't about anyone else. It's about us." She closed her eyes, leaning her forehead against mine. "It's terrifying," she whispered. "Even after everything, I feel like I'm walking a tightrope. One wrong step and..." I pulled her into a hug, holding her tightly. "No one's perfect. We'll stumble, we'll fall, but we'll do it together. That's all we can promise." Just as the words left my mouth, the phone rang. A sharp, insistent trill that cut through the fragile calm of the apartment. She jumped slightly, glancing at me with panic. I frowned. "It's them, isn't it?" She nodded, lips pressed together. "Yes, my father, probably my mother too. And friends, everyone. They'll demand explanations. They won't stop." I took a deep breath. "Then let's face them. Together. If we run now, the fear will always follow us. If we face them now, we control the story." The first call was her father. His voice boomed with authority over the line, sharp and demanding. "What do you mean you didn't go through with the wedding?" he thundered. Do you understand the embarrassment, the shame, the invitations, the guests, everything? She swallowed hard, hands trembling on the counter. I had to be honest, father. I can't marry him. I realized that my heart is elsewhere. He paused, incredulity etched into his tone. Elsewhere? Do you mean, him? That man? The one you, this is unacceptable. I stepped forward, voice calm but unwavering. Sir, I understand your anger. But this isn't a decision about you, or the invitations, or appearances. This is about her heart, and ours. She made the right choice, even if it's difficult to understand. There was a long silence. I could hear her father breathing, the tension on the line palpable. Finally, he said, voice tight but softer, I don't agree. I never will. But, if you truly love her, I can't stop that. Just be careful. Don't hurt her. We exhaled, a shared release of tension. One hurdle survived, but others would come. Friends, relatives, society, they all had opinions, and their scrutiny threatened to suffocate us. But as I held her hand, I realized that the external chaos didn't matter. Not as long as we were aligned, honest, and committed. Later, we walked through the city streets, hand in hand, the weight of judgment following us like shadows. Strangers stared, whispers followed, but we ignored them. The world could offer disapproval, shame, or confusion, but none of that could touch what we had reclaimed in each other. And yet, amid the relief, a small seed of doubt lingered. Was it truly enough to survive just the immediate chaos? Or would the world continue to test us, demanding we prove our love in ways that would stretch the fragile fabric of our bond? I didn't answer her doubts with words. Instead, I kissed her forehead, feeling the warmth of her skin, the tremor of her nerves, the truth of her presence. We'll face it all, I whispered. Whatever comes, we'll face it together. And no matter how hard, no matter how impossible it seems, we'll hold on. She smiled faintly, the kind of smile born from exhaustion and relief, and let herself lean into me, trusting the promise we'd just forged. The city moved on around us, indifferent, chaotic, beautiful, and cruel, but inside our bubble, for the first time in a long time, the world felt possible again. And as night fell, painting the skyline in shades of violet and gold, I knew this: love wasn't safe. It wasn't predictable, it wasn't neat, it was raw, messy, terrifying, and infinitely worth fighting for. And we had chosen to fight. Not for appearances, not for closure, not for anyone else, but for the fragile, luminous truth of us. A week had passed since the wedding chaos, but the echoes of that day still clung to us like shadows we couldn't shake. The apartment was quiet, deceptively calm, but beneath the surface, unease brewed. The city outside carried on as usual, indifferent, but inside, every glance, every touch, every unspoken thought carried weight. She sat at the kitchen table, a cup of untouched tea warming in her hands, staring at the steam curling into the air. Her brow was furrowed, her lips pressed tight. I could see the tension in her posture, the hesitance in her movements, and I knew something had shifted. Something beyond the chaos of the wedding, something quieter but no less dangerous. What's wrong? I asked, leaning against the doorway, watching her. My voice was soft, but firm, steady enough to anchor her. She looked up, eyes brimming with uncertainty. It's him, she whispered, barely audible. I keep thinking about what would have happened if I had said yes. About him, and the consequences. People won't stop talking. They won't stop judging. And I don't know if I can handle it. I walked over, sitting across from her, taking her hands in mine. Let me tell you something, I said, voice steady, eyes locking with hers. What happened a week ago doesn't define us. What people say, what they think, none of it matters. What matters is here, between us. Right now, this, us, is real. She nodded slowly, but doubt lingered in her gaze, a shadow that refused to dissipate. But the world, it's relentless. Even if we fight, even if we ignore them, whispers find a way. Friends, family, even strangers online. They won't understand. They'll try to push me back, or him, or something. I squeezed her hands gently. Then let them. We won't bend. We won't run. We fight for this, together. Every challenge, every whisper, every judgment, we face it side by side. That's how we survive. Her lips quivered. I want to believe that, she admitted. I really do. But sometimes I feel like the world is trying to pull me apart from you. And I don't want to lose this again. Not after everything. I leaned closer, brushing a loose strand of hair behind her ear, tracing her cheek with the pad of my thumb. You won't. I won't let you go. Not now, not ever. This, us, is stronger than fear, stronger than doubt, stronger than anything they can throw at us. Just then, the phone rang. The name flashing on the screen made my chest tighten. It was him, the man she almost married. She froze, hands clutching the counter, and for a moment, I wondered if the storm of the past week had returned. She answered hesitantly, yes. Her voice was calm, but I could hear the tension beneath it. His voice was smooth, controlled, almost disarming. I just wanted to understand, he said. Why didn't you go through with it? Why did you choose him instead of me? I felt a surge of protectiveness, a deep, primal urge to shield her. But she spoke first, her voice firm, unwavering. Because I realized what mattered wasn't the ceremony, the guest list, or the expectations. It was him, the one I've always loved, the one I can't live without. That's you, yes, or him, meaning you, us. There was a pause, long and tense. I could feel her hands trembling, but she didn't hang up. She stood her ground, letting the truth resonate. Finally, his voice softened, tinged with an emotion I hadn't expected, acceptance, maybe even relief. I see, he said. I don't fully understand, but I respect it. I hope you're happy, truly. She exhaled slowly, relief washing over her, and she turned to me. Her eyes searched mine, gratitude and love shining through. It's done, she whispered. He's okay. He understands. I didn't expect that. I pulled her into my arms, holding her tightly, feeling the tension melt slowly from her body. See, I murmured, every challenge, every shadow, we can face together. The week that followed wasn't easy. Whispers lingered, family members questioned our decisions, friends vacillated between judgment and support. But we learned something crucial. Love wasn't about perfection, or easy days, or the absence of doubt. It was about choosing each other, over and over again, even when the world tried to pull us apart. Late one night, as we lay side by side in the dark, listening to the city hum through the windows, she turned to me, voice soft and vulnerable. Do you think we'll ever be free of this? I held her hand, pressing it to my chest, where she could feel the steady beat of my heart. Free of judgment, maybe not, but free of each other. Never. And that's enough. That's everything. She smiled faintly, resting her head against my shoulder. I believe you, she whispered. And for the first time in days, maybe weeks, I believed it too. We had survived the storm, but more importantly, we had survived each other, the doubts, the fears, the nearly catastrophic choices. And as the city slept, unaware of the battles fought and won within these walls, we drifted into a fragile, precious peace, knowing that the true test was not over. Not yet, but together, we could endure anything. The first light of dawn spilled through the windows, soft and golden, painting the apartment in hues of hope and fragile serenity. The city outside was waking, but inside, the air felt suspended, like time itself had paused to witness this moment. We sat on the couch, side by side, fingers intertwined, our hearts beating in a rhythm only we could feel. Weeks of chaos, confrontation, doubt, and revelation had led us here. And yet, the weight of it all hadn't vanished. There was still fear lingering in the corners, whispers of the past threatening to creep in, memories of almost losing each other haunting our smiles. But now, with our hands clasped, our eyes locked, there was clarity, pain and joy fused into one, a raw, unshakable truth. I never thought we'd make it, she whispered, voice trembling, tears glistening in her eyes. Not after everything. Not after the choices I made, the almost wedding, the confusion. I thought I'd lost you for good. I shook my head slowly, brushing a strand of hair from her face, my thumb tracing the line of her cheek. You could never lose me, I said, voice low, steady, resolute. Not then, not now, not ever. Love doesn't end because of mistakes or fear. Love ends only if we let it. And I pressed my forehead to hers, feeling the warmth of her breath, the quiet tremor of emotion. I will never let it end between us. She closed her eyes, leaning into me, letting the words settle deep within her. I was so scared, she admitted. Scared of choosing wrong, scared of hurting you, scared of everything I couldn't control. But, now, I see it. The truth isn't in the past or in what we almost lost. The truth is here, right here, with you. I held her tighter, feeling the tremble in her body, the vulnerability she entrusted to me. Then let's promise, I whispered. No more doubts, no more hiding, no more almost losing each other. We fight for this, every day, every moment, no matter what. Together, her lips quivered into a tearful smile. Together, she echoed, and in that single word, the tension of months dissolved, leaving only the luminous, fragile, terrifying brilliance of love reclaimed. We sat in silence for a long time, letting the magnitude of the moment settle. Outside, the city moved, indifferent to our triumph, but within these walls, everything had changed. We had faced fear, confrontation, judgment, and temptation, and emerged, raw and unbroken, bound by the choice we had made for each other. Finally, she lifted her head, eyes bright with emotion, and whispered, I thought closure meant moving on. I thought I had to bury my feelings to survive. But I was wrong. Closure is knowing your heart. And my heart has always been yours. I leaned in, our foreheads touching, breaths mingling. Then we don't need ceremonies. We don't need approval. We don't need anything else but this. You, me, now. That's everything. She laughed softly, a sound full of relief, gratitude, and joy, the kind of laughter that carries away months of fear in a single note. Everything, she repeated, pressing her lips to mine. The kiss was tender, fierce, and infinitely intimate. It carried apologies, promises, confessions, and forgiveness. It carried the story of everything we had endured and the hope of everything yet to come. When we finally pulled back, we were breathless, hearts hammering in unison. The sun had climbed higher, spilling light over the city, over the apartment, over the lives we had rebuilt. I rested my forehead against hers, feeling the quiet surge of love that had survived chaos, judgment, and fear. This is it, I said softly. Our beginning. Not a perfect beginning, but ours. She smiled, tears still glistening, and whispered, the only one that matters. And in that morning light, with the city alive beyond the windows and the world no longer able to dictate our choices, we understood the truth. Love wasn't about weddings, promises made to others, or fleeting moments of closure. Love was about bravery, about vulnerability, about staying when the world demanded we leave, about choosing each other, over and over again, until time itself had no choice but to witness. We held each other, letting the moment stretch, infinite and profound, a silent testament to survival, devotion, and the unbreakable bond of two hearts that had fought through fear to find their way home. And in that quiet, eternal morning, we knew, without doubt, without hesitation, without fear, that we had finally arrived where we were meant to be, together, whole and unafraid.